They whispered Josiah's name like a curse and a legend all at once. A man born in chains who somehow clawed his way toward silk and whiskey and gold-rimmed mirrors. No birth records kept his arrival. Only a midwife's memory of a storm-thick night and a boy with eyes too steady for a newborn. On the plantation he learned quiet power, the kind found in watching, in memorizing, in waiting. Slaves bent beneath the lash, but Josiah bent only long enough to learn who held the whip, who feared whispers in the dark, who hoarded secrets like silver cutlery. A master named Barrow owned him then, a man whose wealth rested on the sweat of backs darker than his conscience. Barrow watched Josiah grow from wiry child to sharp-jawed youth, and sensed danger coiling there. Yet profit blinded him. Believing brilliance in a servant was something to harness, not fear. Josiah poured drinks at the master's table, trimmed wicks on silver candlesticks, and listened to business talk as if those conversations were scripture. He memorized prices of cotton and land, the meaning of letters stamped in wax, the power hidden in ledgers thick as Bibles. Wealth made Barrow careless. Power made Josiah patient. Freedom was a dream sharpened daily, not by hope but by calculation. If life was a market, then a man like Barrow represented the cost. There were no maps for a slave to reach liberty, only opportunities rare and perilous like a spark in dry brush. The overseer swore he once saw Josiah staring down a copperhead, and the snake retreating first. The story spread, half fear, half miracle, the kind of tale that turns a man into myth long before his hands do anything history will judge him for. Barrow trusted him too much. Some evenings he sent Josiah to deliver coin, others to fetch keys to the locked room where debts and contracts lived, keys that could buy a future, keys that could sentence one, keys that Josiah memorized the weight and click of, waiting for the moment when a locked door would open more than a cabinet. Rumor traveled soft among the enslaved, a plan ripening like bruised fruit. No words spoken openly, only glances traded beneath moonlight, fingers tracing invisible marks in dirt. They knew something simmered. A man with nothing loses fear. A man with purpose becomes unstoppable. One winter night, wind tearing across fields like a morning hymn, Barrow failed to leave his study. His widow found the door ajar, candle cold, a ledger open like a wound. No marks of struggle, no witnesses. Only Josiah missing and a single gold watch gone. The town whispered murder, though no body surfaced. Some swore Barrow vanished in a gambling scandal. Some claimed spirits dragged him to judgment. The truth hung invisible and black as pitch. Josiah's absence carried weight heavier than chains. And though the world would not see him for months, a seed had been planted. Wealth stained by ambition, destiny sharpened by rage. A man disappears, another is born. Freedom never comes clean. And somewhere beyond torchlight and suspicion, Josiah walked north with the quiet certainty of a man who had paid his price to fate in blood unseen. Part desaddened. Widows gold by spring, whispers turned into sightings. A man fitting Josiah's description appeared in a distant town, hair trimmed, boots polished, a coat too fine for someone without pedigree. No one asked where he came from. In frontier places, wealth excused silence. He purchased a small parcel of land, then a mule, then tools, and soon those who saw him work swore he moved not like a former field hand but like someone who had long studied labor from the outside. Rumors seeded doubt. Maybe he'd been freed earlier, maybe he'd earned it honest. The world likes stories tidy enough to keep sleeping at night. The widow Barrow, meanwhile, clung to grief and suspicion like prayer beads. Lawyers circled her like vultures around carrion, pressing for auctions, liquidation, signatures. A woman alone with land and debt was a carcass in the wrong forest. Society offered sympathy coated in venom, and she learned fast that tears attracted predators. She hardened. Dresses darkened. Friends slipped away. Loneliness arrived wrapped in silk and mourning veils. Some months later, a stranger returned to town under a new name, dressed in solemn black, hat tipped low. He visited the Barrow home with respectful distance and attentive curiosity, presenting himself as a prosperous man seeking investment in expanding trade, cotton, transport, provisions. Respectable men vouched for his manners, and respectable women admired the quiet gravity he carried. None recognized him as the servant who once poured wine at their tables, or if they did, they swallowed it, for money demands blindness. The widow and the stranger found common ground in loss, though her grief was real and his perhaps a costume. The town watched courtship bloom slow as tea steeping, delicate and formal, a woman recovering, a gentleman offering steadiness. No gossip dared question it out loud. Wealth like perfume masks sin. Marriage followed before cotton turned white again in fields. Some called it practical union, others romance born from shared sorrow. Only Josiah knew the truth coiled beneath. Marriage as fortress, widow as key, estate as prize. Power obtained through tenderness and patience, not force. Society applauded. Churches blessed. And the former property of a dead master became the master of that property without a musket raised or law broken in daylight. Whispers faded. Suspicion buried. The world forgets if gold is stacked high enough. Yet at night, in lamplight soft as widow's silk, Josiah counted ledgers with fingers steady as a surgeon's, every stroke proof that he had carved a life from the bones of brutality. But guilt lingered like smoke. Freedom earned by bloodstains as deep as chains. He did not fear justice, only memory. And memory has a way of rising like dust, settling where you least expect. Owning land in the South held more weight than titles. It meant power, leverage, belonging carved through centuries of sweat and sin. Under Josiah's management, the estate did not merely survive, it flourished. Cotton rolled out in bales. Fat as coffers and wagons lined the dirt road like pilgrims to fortune. Traders visited with hats in hand, offering deals, requesting favors. The widow, now mistress in name only, found herself surrounded by prosperity she had never commanded alone. Josiah learned to navigate white men's respect delicately, balancing humble courtesy with unshakable confidence. They could not place him, this man too refined for his skin in their world, too educated for the boxes they built. But money bends prejudice like heat, bends metal. If insult sparked, profit extinguished it. He reinvested, expanding acreage, acquiring mills, lending money discreetly to desperate planters whose debts piled like broken promises. White men signed contracts with trembling pride, unaware they were sowing the seeds of his empire. Influence spread slow and steady, the kind that speaks in banknotes and recorded deeds, not boasts. The enslaved people under his authority watched, with confused awe, unsure whether he rose for them or in spite of them. He treated them better than Barrow had, no question, minimizing cruelty, expanding rations, allowing learning in shadows. Yet freedom remained elusive, temptation tangled in practicality. To dismantle a system while ruling within it required a calculus so cold it froze empathy. Were they brothers in bondage or bricks in the empire he built? Destiny answered with silence. At gatherings, Josiah played the gracious host. Laughter came easy, wine flowed, orchestras played polished notes that masked currents beneath. Men admired him. Women swooned and whispers chased his shadow, wondering at his origins. Some guessed northern schooling. Others assumed Caribbean heritage. None dared accuse publicly. Accusations require courage. Wealth suppresses. His wife drifted beside him like a garden rose overshadowed by a towering oak. She enjoyed luxury, yes, but sensed the steel beneath his gentility. Love between them calcified into partnership, not passion. She saw ambition in his eyes sharp as glass, and though she feared it, she basked in the security it bought. Their private life waned into formality, gestures polite but hollow. two figures carved by circumstance rather than affection. Yet nights alone haunted Josiah. Wealth echoed empty. Every triumph reminded him of a crime sealed beneath soil and silence. Freedom tasted like iron sometimes, metallic, heavy, earned by a price he dared not voice. The past lurked always, patient as a wolf stalking a king who thinks himself divine. The richer he became, the louder the whispers of his conscience. Power demanded sacrifices, and he wondered whether chains still bound him, not around wrists but heart, identity, and morality. A kingdom built from ashes may shine, but smoke clings forever. Success had crowned him, yes, but each success reminded him of the man who vanished into winter wind, never truly laid to rest, and destiny rarely lets ghosts sleep forever. Time is a patient hunter. Years passed, and prosperity settled like velvet across Josiah's world. He owned more land than most white planters, ran mills with precision, loaned money to banks rather than borrowing from them. Whispers named him the wealthiest black man in the South, though no one dared speak it loudly. Such facts threatened the fragile order society clung to, and truth becomes dangerous when it embarrasses power. But success draws envy like sugar draws ants. A former overseer from Barrow's plantation returned to town, whiskey-bloated, carrying rumors like diseased blankets. He claimed memory sharp as a blade. A servant gone missing the same night as a master, suspicious as storm clouds before thunder. He muttered to anyone who would listen about disappearance, gold watches, and murder hidden beneath polite smiles. Some scoffed, others listened, curiosity pricking like thorns. Josiah heard wind of this the way foxes sense traps. Calm mask intact. He continued his routines, meetings, accounts, gentle nods to neighbors who praised his industry. Outward composure concealed internal dread. He knew the world forgives theft more readily than equality. A black man amassing fortune became threat incarnate. The overseer's tongue loosened further under liquor. Soon, he revered himself as truth-bearer, destined to expose impostors. He spoke names, dates, hints sharp enough to cut reputation. White men who once envied Josiah's success now found excuse to mistrust him. A world built on hierarchy cannot tolerate cracks in the foundation. Josiah's wife sensed tremors too. Her smiles thinned, sleep frayed, suspicion flickered in glances. Marriage forged by ambition fractures easily under scrutiny. Once, she traced the edge of a silver mirror frame, eyes hollow, asking without asking whether ghosts follow men who rise too quickly. Fear lived between them, unspoken, bitter as wormwood. The overseer pushed too far one night, arriving at a gathering uninvited, breath reeking, voice slurred but intent sharp. He wove accusations laced with venom, implying murder cloaked in ambition, gasps, whispers, faces pale as linen. A dangerous air settled, brittle, ready to snap. Josiah did not raise voice or hand. He met the room's gaze with a steadiness honed through years of swallowing injustice and spitting back victory. He let silence work like gravity, heavy and inevitable. The overseer stumbled out, laughter brittle but seeds planted. Public grace cannot kill rumor. Josiah retreated to his study after guests departed, staring into candlelight, trembling like conscience. Every triumph seemed suddenly fragile, every inch gained balanced upon a precipice sharper than a razor. Freedom won through blood does not erase blood. He understood then that wealth could not buy peace. Guilt is a currency that never devalues, and the past, like shadow, clings no matter how brilliantly the future shines. The overseer disappeared. Days later, swallowed by swamps or fate or fear, no one could say. People assumed gambling debts or misfortune. Society conveniently forgets what burdens it, but Josiah knew, or feared, or imagined. Sometimes fate does the dirty work ambition once did, yet even when threats vanish, paranoia stays. He felt eyes in empty rooms, heard footsteps in memory's corridors. Safety is illusion when built on bones. Even kings tremble in the dark.